Censorship, a violation of the First Amendment. Something that, anonymous as an ideology, completely goes against. But what if I told you that First Amendment had a loophole? A loophole that has been exploited by corporations and the government for years. A corporation or government could, say, pay off a news organization or social media site to censor different opinions. Indeed, it is harder for corporations to prevent a rogue worker from exposing them to major news outlet that they missed or can't pay off, such as Russia Today. But if they are working for the government, most workers not named Edward Snowden don't want to be charged with espionage, fired, and arrested. Paying off most major news organizations isn't very hard for them, and all of the smaller ones will be put off falsified information by the mass media. Also, unlike corporations on their own, the government can just outright murder anyone that they believe will be a whistleblower. We already know censorship occurs. In fact, it was Anonymous that put a stop to one of the acts. Operation Payback, where for some reason, every online cash service refused to process any funds directed to WikiLeaks. These funds being donations. Anonymous crippled the sites of MasterCard, PayPal, and many other sites of the sort, forcing them to start processing donations to WikiLeaks again. Why would they do this? Two reasons: either they were paid off, or they were being threatened by the government. Being paid off would make it a lot easier for the government to cover it up, but they could have easily threatened them. Now, threats would be a clear violation of the First Amendment, and if the government was really looking to silence WikiLeaks in that way, they could have easily just taken it down. Or demanded that Google censor it. Google does censor sites that are against the law, sometimes, but they tend to not censor opinions differing from the state. Which means that Google, despite being paid off in some respects, such as favoring different search results despite people not actually searching it, doesn't actually censor differing opinions from the state. But, what do all of these corporations have in common? The fact that they are run worldwide, making them nearly immune to threats from the government. Evidence that Google doesn't censor things against the state of any nation is obviously present. Google owns YouTube, and look where this video is, YouTube. If Google really was threatened in any way by the US government, or if they even cared, my channel would have been censored long ago. Along with those of the Anon message, and any others being against the state. Google is an example of a corporation that refuses to submit to the government, even though it is flawed in other ways. It isn't very corrupt. That being said, Google still censors any channels that could potentially harm its profits, such as those criticizing YouTubers that earn substantial amounts of money. Anyways, Google is an example of a corporation that refuses to submit to the government, despite the advantages it could offer. The fact that Google Fiber, perhaps the fastest internet infrastructure in existence, isn't being subsidized, and is, in fact, being tossed out, proves this. Yes, admittedly, they could be selling information on users to the government, but so could Verizon. A corporation funded by the government, a clear-cut corporation looking just for profit, and nothing else. Anyways, Google is just an example of a corporation that doesn't censor information, and is, thus, suffering from it. Twitter is paid off. They shadow ban users that are deemed threats. Yet they only shadow ban them to prevent retaliation from people like, say, Anonymous. But they make sure it's small users, so people like Snowden or WikiLeaks, with millions of followers, won't be shadow banned. Once again, to prevent retaliation and boycotting. Somehow, I bet I'm going to be shadow banned on Twitter once they become aware of my existence. But when that happens, they will have forgotten about one thing: the Anonymous agents